Episode 5 begins with the situation at the Sovereignty's headquarters located in the Medal Valley. It continues with Alice Wren walking amidst the Sovereignty witches. The witches, taken aback by Alice's arrival, inquire about her purpose there since it's a forbidden area. Alice, paying no heed to the witches, continues to walk. As Alice observes her surroundings, suddenly the ground around them starts to shake and a massive surge of energy erupts from the earth. She approaches the energy source, stating that it's a vortex. While Alice stands near the vortex, a masked man approaches them, the same man Alice encountered earlier. Without preamble, Alice immediately asks him about whether he intends to keep the discovery for himself. The masked man explains that the vortex has just been found, and they are currently reporting it to His Excellency. While they converse, a black-haired blindfolded girl approaches them. Her name is Kissing, who happens to be Alice's cousin. The masked man then introduces Alice to Kissing, who doesn't remember her at first but tightly grips the masked man's hand. The masked man then instructs Alice to entrust the matter of the vortex to him. Alice, skeptical of the girl's ability to handle the Empire's forces alone, questions the masked man. However, he responds by stating that trusting Kissing is justified, as her talent surpasses Alice's. Alice continues by asking about the Zhou family's plans regarding the vortex. The masked man merely smiles upon hearing Alice's question. Alice speculates that the Zhou family's objective is to initiate an all-out war with the Empire. The masked man confirms Alice's guess, as it has been the hope of spirit users for the past 100 years. Upon hearing this, Alice can only lower her head in front of the masked man. The scene shifts where Unit N07 is currently halted at the edge of a large crevice. They have stopped because they sense the presence of spirit energy at their headquarters. However, after the troops at their headquarters analyzed the spirit energy, it was revealed to be caused by spirit techniques. Jin heard this and suspected that their headquarters had been infiltrated by spirit forces, and the missing unit was likely their doing. As a result, the Imperial soldiers moved valuable items to their second headquarters, and Unit No. 07 was instructed to continue investigating the vortex. Upon hearing this, Jin asked the captain to lead the investigation. Miss, surprised and confused, randomly pointed in the direction of a slowly fading white light. Neen was shocked to see this, and she was further startled when the spirit detection device she was holding emitted a loud sound because the location the captain pointed to had a high level of spirit energy. Knowing this, Neen praised the captain and informed him that it might be the vortex. The captain, surprised by this, asked his comrades if they might be the first to discover it. While they were discussing the captain's discovery of the vortex, a car drove towards them and stopped right in front of them, and Unit Noro-chan emerged from the car. The captain, seeing his old friend, ran to hug her. While Noro-chan was hugging the captain, she asked him if he saw the vortex's light. The captain had a wide smile on his face in response. Upon hearing Miss' answer, Noro-chan, with a wicked grin on her face, said something to Iska and the others, that before they found it, Sovereignty had set many traps at the base of the cliff. Noro-chan and her friends were assigned to capture the Imperial troops approaching the vortex. After informing Iska and the others, she tightly hugged Captain Miss. Iska and the others tried to approach to stop it, but they were halted by Noro-chan's shout. She then removed the fake skin they used to cover the mark of the witches of the Sovereignty on her neck. Seeing this in front of him, Captain Miss asked where the real Noro-chan was. Placing her hand on Captain Miss' neck, she replied that Shannarat Gregory was born and raised in the Sovereignty of Nebulous, and since the first time they met, that has always been her true identity. Then, the witch's mark on her neck lit up and discharged an electric current into her hand, shocking Captain Miss. Iska, witnessing the events, assumed a stance to attack Noro-chan and her three companions, but his steps were halted when he heard a voice coming from somewhere. This was followed by the 4 Sovereignty witches who were confused and weakened, leaving only Noro-chan standing. Then, a figure appeared right in front of Iska and the others, and it was Nameless. Noro-chan was slightly surprised to see Nameless in front of her, and she instantly retreated and tried to escape. Seeing the enemy in front of her attempting to flee, Nameless drew his weapon with the intent to finish her off. However, one of the remaining conscious witches attacked Nameless with her fire magic. The massive fire attack missed Nameless, and he quickly dispatched the witch with his weapon. Moving on to Noro-chan, who was running towards her car with Captain Miss in tow. Nameless then aimed to attack the car Noro-chan was heading for, but his attack was intercepted by Asuka, followed by Jin shooting a tracking device. The car quickly sped away, leaving Asuka and the others behind. Nameless, not accepting Asuka's actions, was confronted by Asuka, who questioned Nameless's intention to attack Shanarot and their captain. Hearing this, Nameless regarded Asuka's actions as insubordination. They were trying to track him so they could understand his objective. Nameless, unwilling to debate with them, responded that their mission remained unchanged. If he reached the enemy's base, they would bombard the enemy's area and then annihilate everything. Hearing this, Asuka and the others could only fall silent. The scene then shifts to Alice and the masked man near the vortex. They are discussing the vortex's smaller size than they had anticipated. With its small size, there might be only a few spirit users they can acquire from it. After that, the spirit energy inside it would be depleted. While they were talking, one of the witches approached them and conveyed that their comrade, Shanarot, had returned. They welcomed Shanarot's return and praised her for successfully capturing the Imperial soldiers. Mismis was taken to the Sovereignty's headquarters near the vortex by Shanarot and handcuffed. She, with her eyes closed, then opened them and saw a familiar girl standing in front of her. She remembered the girl who had met Asuka the other day. However, when she tried to mention her name, Rin promptly struck her, causing her to lose consciousness and fall. Rin then reprimanded Shanarot, stating that even though they were handcuffed, bringing Imperial troops to their base was a foolish move. Shanarot then apologized. Alice felt relieved by Rin's actions, but Rin couldn't help but wonder why the female captain and the Imperial troops always blocked their path. After hearing what Rin said, Alice felt that this was a jackpot and with excitement in her tone, asked her to surrender everything to her. The scene continued with Alice and Rin on top of an earth golem heading towards the Imperial base. Rin, who was confused, asked about Alice's intentions and goals. Alice, in high spirits, stated that it was the right time to confront Asuka. Rin was taken aback by Alice's response and thought that she must be insane. A spyglass that was spying on them spotted the golem's footprints originating from the vortex location. The spyglass belonged to Neen, who was observing the situation from the Sovereignty Witch's headquarters. Meanwhile, Jin and Asuka were discussing the whereabouts of Captain Mismis, and Neen, as she got up, said that there were 2 hours left before the missile launch. However, before she could finish speaking, a missile came towards the witch's headquarters, which was a short-range missile fired from the Imperial base. The next missile was estimated to be launched in about 20 or 30 minutes. After estimating this, they hurried to go to the witch's headquarters to rescue their captain. Meanwhile, the witches were dealing with the aftermath of the Imperial bombardment and chose to retreat to their second headquarters. In the midst of the chaos, a car that penetrated the black smoke suddenly stopped and then continued to penetrate into the Sovereignty Witch's headquarters. On the other side, Mismis, who was being pulled by Noro-chan, pleaded for her to stop her actions. Seeing Mismis begging made her want to pull the rope she was holding even tighter. As she was pulling the tightly bound rope around Mismis's neck, it suddenly got cut by something and Asuka quickly appeared in front of Mismis. Loudly, he declared that he was taking his captain back. Noro, not one to back down, then unleashed her electric attack towards Asuka, which he easily blocked using his sword. Noro, cornered as her attack proved ineffective, did not yield. Footsteps were heard, slowly approaching Asuka and Noro, who were facing each other. The footsteps belonged to Kissing, who came to assist Noro. Without hesitation, Kissing began to unleash her power, which she then directed behind Asuka. A second missile from the Empire came towards them, but the thorns of Kissing's power obliterated the missile. Asuka was taken aback after seeing the missile vanish in an instant. Noro, impressed by Kissing's power, praised her with admiration. After destroying the missile that came towards her, Kissing then changed her target to Asuka, intending to eliminate him. Realizing that he was the next target of Kissing, Asuka then cut the handcuffs binding Mismis's hands and asked her to step away from his side. On the other hand, Alice, who had arrived at the Empire's base, discovered that it was empty and abandoned. Rin, who was checking the soldiers' tents, realized that someone was about to attack Alice and pushed her out of the way, taking a hit on her hand. A figure then appeared in front of Rin and Alice. It was Nameless wearing optical camouflage armor, rendering him invisible to Rin and Alice. Alice, already informed about Nameless by Shanarot, greeted him. due to Nameless injuring Rin and a stroke of bad luck that prevented him from meeting someone. He wanted to vent his anger on Nameless. Back to Iska's side, where he is being attacked by Kissing using her thorns, which she combines to form a whip. Iska deftly avoids the attacks launched by Kissing one after another. Her attacks prove ineffective against him, causing Kissing to reshape her thorns and shower Iska with them. Iska, seeing the attack, then runs towards Kissing while parrying every thorn that comes his way using the sword he possesses. In no time, he is in front of Kissing. Impressed by Iska's abilities, she praises him and proceeds to use her power to reconstruct the missile she had destroyed and detonates it. Iska, unable to evade in time, receives the explosion from the missile. Meanwhile, Nameless is running towards Alice and disappears. Alice, who is standing there, is startled by an unseen attack that hits her ice shield. Shortly after, Nameless reveals his face, and without delay, Alice attacks him using her ice powers, causing Nameless to retreat. Since Nameless has moved a considerable distance away from her, he then counterattacks using the ice Alice launched. Alice, taken by surprise and unable to evade, is promptly aided by Rin. This prompts Alice to apologize to Nameless for doubting his abilities, and she then demonstrates her serious power, using her ace card that envelops the surrounding environment in ice. After Alice uses her ace card, Rin doesn't sense any signs of Nameless, so she concludes that Nameless has escaped. Upon hearing Rin's conclusion, Alice decides to head back as she doesn't want to waste any more time. However, while she is walking, there is an explosion sound coming from the direction of the vortex. The scene shifts to where the explosion originated, where Kissing's thorns begin to disappear, indicating that Iska's destruction is complete. Smoke from the explosion envelops the surrounding area, and there are footsteps approaching Kissing. Captain Mismas, upon seeing this, shouts Iska's name, followed by Noro, who is surprised that Iska survived the explosion. Iska then stands right in front of Kissing, holding both of his swords. He questions who taught Kissing to fight so recklessly. Ignoring Iska's question, Kissing unleashes her power and forms thorned serpents, launching them towards Iska. However, he manages to dodge them, and the serpents pierce through metal as if it were paper. Iska quickly moves behind Kissing and strikes her in the abdomen, rendering her unconscious. Captain Mismas runs towards Iska after seeing him defeat Kissing. Iska then suggests to the captain to return and take Kissing as a hostage. However, as he is speaking, he is suddenly stabbed from behind and falls to the ground. A masked man, wielding a dagger, is standing behind him and proceeds to walk towards the unconscious Kissing, carrying her away. Before the masked man departs, he approaches Mismas and kicks her, sending her tumbling into the vortex. Upon seeing her captain thrown into the vortex, Iska quickly runs and jumps into the vortex. Alice, who has arrived at her base, follows suit and leaps into the vortex to reach him. Inside the vortex, Iska searches for the captain and eventually finds her. After Iska found his captain, he embraced her, and a voice calling from above was heard. It was Alice's voice, and she scolded him for attempting to infiltrate the Imperial base when he wasn't there. At that moment, Alice extended her hand to help Iska, but with one condition: if they reached the land, she wanted to continue their battle. Upon hearing this, Iska agreed without hesitation and reached for Alice's hand. Alice then used her power to create an ice platform for them to stand on. Just as Alice was about to speak, they were surprised by a voice coming from within the vortex, and spirit energy suddenly increased. This caused Iska and Alice to float and their grasp on each other to be separated. An explosion of spirit energy occurred in an instant and then disappeared. Alice, lying there, was awakened after hearing Rin calling for her. She was frustrated for being interrupted by spirit fairies when she had just reunited with Iska and hoped for Iska to remain alive. On the other side, Iska woke up after hearing his friends calling and searching for them. He realized that both of them had fallen into the vortex. Neen, who was surprised by this, asked how they had survived. Iska, upon hearing the question, made a gloomy expression and said that he owed it to someone. And that's how episode 5 ended.